Hey y'all, this is Austin's Animals, and as you can see, I've got a whole lot of Zootopia in front of me. I even have a cup of coffee, like Nick Wilde would drink, except this one's from 7-Eleven. I assume they have 7-Eleven in Zootopia. It would have some sort of animal-themed name. If you can think of a good 7-Eleven animal joke, put that in the comments. But the reason I'm here today is to talk about these Zootopia figures. Um, I recently rewatched the movie with my amazing girlfriend Sarah. We really enjoyed it, and I thought, this would be a fun line. The Critter Town, because if you know, I collect calico critters. I kind of have this whole city I've built. And I thought Zootopia would be a fun license to kind of integrate into the village, but I don't remember Zootopia having a great toy line. I was thinking, like, well, why didn't I buy those figures when the movie came out? Because I did like the movie when I initially saw it, and I had a couple of the collectibles. For example, I had these Disney Infinity figures that I'll talk about here in a moment. But I don't remember Zootopia having a good toy line. And I've mentioned it before on this channel that the Zootopia figures that came out with the movie were based on an earlier script. So the characters don't exactly look like the ones from the movie. There was even a couple vehicles and playsets that are not even scenes that were in the film at all. So I vaguely remember walking into Target in 2016 and kind of seeing the Zootopia in cap and going, that's not that impressive, and just kind of taking a pass. But I've been looking for Zootopia figures now. I've only been hunting for them for like maybe 2 weeks now at various flea markets, and I've already put together a whole little collection. I find that they're very easy figures to find secondhand. These are obviously some of the more common ones because I see doubles of them a lot. Like, for example, this Sloth, and something about the Lionheart and Clawhauser, I see them everywhere. I see these all the time, though no tail, which goes for a lot of these figures. They're played with, which is fine. It's a kid-focused toy line. That's expected. So I've already been putting together a little set of these figures, and I thought I would just talk for a moment about collecting Zootopia, kind of my first-hand impressions on what I get from collecting this line. Starting things off, I have Judy here. This was a figure I had a little while ago. I just bought it because I thought, well, that's a nice-looking Judy Hopps figure. And I don't remember this one when the line came out. Well, Judy was shipped in the first case. There were two. One was like a Target exclusive that was in like a kind of a SWAT agent outfit that's from an earlier script of the movie, not in the film. And then there's this one, which is the movie-accurate Judy. A really nice figure. The sculpt is just solid. The details on the face are fantastic. It looks just like the character. They even got textured fur into the sculpt, which is something you don't see on a lot of figures. But this one was tough to find at retail, because from what I understand, Judy and Nick kind of sold out across the board when the line was shipped, and that left the retailers with piles and piles of the peg warmers, which I think was like most of the figures. I don't have him here, but they released the polar bear that was in the Mafia. Do you remember? He's the polar bear that kind of holds out Mr. Big like this. Like he holds Mr. Big. They made him, and then they made the rhinoceros police officer, and then Clawhauser and Lionheart, right? And then Nick and Judy. And I look at that lineup and I see a big problem, and that is that the majority of the figures are just kind of these big, beefy guys, which is fine. That's what sells in a boys' action figure line. But they're not characters that had big roles in the movie. Even Lionheart, who is voiced by the great J.K. Simmons, he's hardly in the film. He's in it for like just a few minutes. Upon rewatching the movie, I forgot how one note the Zootopia characters are. Like, everyone knows the Sloth, right? Because he was in all the trailers. But he's only in the movie a few minutes. And I think aside from Nick, Judy's parents, and maybe like Idris Elba, I know his character was in it a lot, these characters are hardly in the film. Of course, if you wanted to collect this line and build the world of Zootopia, you would still need them. And I think that's what makes collecting this line is so appealing, is putting together a little scene and making the town of Zootopia. But there was some bad character choices right from the start. If I was designing this line, and I'm not saying I'm a toy designer, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would have done the first wave with like maybe 2 Nicks, maybe 3, at least 2 Nick Wilds, maybe 3, 1 or 2 Judys, not as many as Nick, because I know the female figures don't sell as well, but she is the lead of the movie, so you have to include a lot of Judys. And then if you want to make a cool police officer guy, then make Idris Elba. Do his character, because he's in the movie a lot. I see why TOMY picked this license. Not only was this a big Disney movie, and pretty much every Disney movie gets a full toy line. There's a couple of exceptions, like, I know Up famously didn't have any toys when the movie came out. They're like, no, we're not making any toys for this movie. But with Zootopia, you've got cops and robbers, right? Police officers and goons, which makes for a perfect toy line. Like, since toys were invented, kids have been playing cops and robbers, and it's something you see with a ton of toy lines. Playmobil does it, Lego does it. They even made a huge line of action figures based off the Police Academy movies, right? Which aren't even like kids movies. Like, what kid's gonna watch Police Academy? But it was cops and robbers, which always sells on the toy aisle. So Zootopia had everything going with it for a great toy line, and TOMY kind of laid the blueprint, but they didn't get quite there. I'm gonna explain why. So first we have Lionheart and Clawhauser. These are 2 really nice figures. The sculpts are richly detailed. Clawhauser looks very friendly, and he's a very fun character. Lionheart as well. Again, I think they warmed the pegs because they were shipped in such big quantities. I don't know the case breakdown, but I think there was many of these on the pegs, if not more than Nick and Judy. I have a feeling Judy might have been short-packed. No, oh, there goes the elephant. Short-packed, not like a bunny joke, but like, because she's a female character, and they don't usually stock the girl character that much, even though she is the main character in this case. So these are good figures, but I think they should have been held off for Wave 2. I'm going to talk about Wave 2 in a second. So here we have Judy, right, and 2 of the figures I found. And then you've got the Sloth here. Now, the Sloth was not included in the TOMY action figure line, which I think is a little unusual. I know he's just kind of a one-note character, but he is something very iconic with Zootopia. It's something that people associate with the movie. He was on all of the merchandise. I think they made more merchandise of that Sloth than Nick Wilde. I kid you not. There's so much stuff of that Sloth, and I still see piles of it at the flea market. T-shirts, bags, hoodies, plush, everything. So it's unusual that he was not included in the action figure line, especially when you factor in that, spoilers if you haven't seen a 6-year-old movie, that at the end of the film, he's a bad guy. Nick and Judy are chasing him. So for like a play scenario, you'd want a villain, a criminal. And that's another line, I think. That's another problem I think this line had, is you have a lot of cops, but you have no crooks. Like, there's not a lot of bad guys. There's Nick Wilde, he's a bad guy. And then if you bought the play set, you got the evil, like the Jaguar that they fight. But you have to buy a play set to get him. I don't even have him here. And then they made a Lionheart. And Lionheart is, I guess he's kind of a bad guy, right? Judy does arrest him for corruption. So even though he's not, like, completely evil like Bellwether is, he could be a crook they chase after. But, you know, if I was making this toy line, I would have filled it with bad guys and goons. I would have even made a few up. Like, include, I don't know, do like an evil wolf or a rhinoceros or something. Something to pad out this line a little more. So with the Sloth here, you're probably wondering, like, well, if he wasn't in the figure line, what are these? This is the Disney Store PVC Sloth. And thankfully, A lot of these companies made those Zootopia toys in relative scale with each other. So the Sloth, there goes the Sloth. Look at this, what's happening here? Okay, I'm gonna mention that in a second. So the Sloth is nicely scaled with the figures and nicely detailed. He's not posable like I'd like him to be, but he'll get the job done for a display. But with all of the Disney Store Zootopia figures, whatever glue they used to hold these together has not held up, because the limbs pop right off. And this isn't just the case with this one. I see them at flea markets with none of their limbs at all. And I have a Clawhauser, and he just completely falls apart. I didn't even include him on this display because I knew he would fall apart when I set him here. So maybe you'll have to get some super glue and put these things back together. They're not broke. They just don't have good glue. Now, if you don't like the Disney Store Sloth, say it's a bit too, I guess, pre-posed or realistic, then you've got another great option with the Funko Zootopia line. Funko went all out with Zootopia. Maybe they should have got the figure license. They could have made some really nice figures. But they did give us these blind bagged minis, which, for a blind bag toy that was like $5, these are really nice. These are really great figures. They even include 1 point of articulation in the head. In this case, you know, the Sloth can do all sorts of ridiculous things with his head. But he looks fine with the other figures. I know he's much more stylized, but I'm going to put all these guys with my Calico Critters and maybe throw in some of my Chippendale figures, some of the Ewoks, and just make a new Critter Town that's kind of Zootopia. So I think it'll all fit, because Zootopia is very diverse. You've got all sorts of different looking animals. What else do I got here? Okay, so these are the Disney Infinity Nick and Judys that were with the video game that came out. There was no Zootopia video game. They were banking big on Disney Infinity, and that bombed. Nobody bought these, but they are really nice figures. The sculpt on Nick in particular is astounding. Like, they did an amazing job capturing the essence of that character. Even his Hawaiian short, it doesn't even have a Hawaiian print. It's sculpted on. It looks really nice. Judy as well has a wonderful sculpt. They really captured the character's proportions well, and I would have loved to have seen this kind of toon design as a figure as well. I think it would have looked good. My only gripe, again, is that this was based off an earlier script in the movie in which Judy had a gun. So Judy's got a gun here. It's the one that Bellwether uses at the end of the movie, but it's a little dark and odd to think that in the original cut it was Judy's gun that she carried because she was afraid of Nick. So instead of the fox spray, she just had a firearm, which is great. What else do we got here? Okay, so this is Tommy Chong as the nudist, and I'm shocked they made this character in a kid's line. He's not included in the Zootopia action figure range. This is another Disney Store PVC, but I think this is perfect. This character didn't need to be in the TOMY figure line. I don't know why he would be. He doesn't really fit into any play line. Like, what is a kid gonna play? The Nick and Judy go to the nude club? Such an odd scene. But for a PVC, he's perfect. Not every character needs to be fully articulated and posable. For a guy like this, he just goes in the background in a display. The sculpt is fantastic. They got all of his little messy hairs and flowers and his kind of whole hippie vibe. He looks great. This is a great figure. So if you want to collect this line, I would say get that Disney PVC set and then kind of pick and choose from the Disney TOMY line, because the TOMY line has some gems in it. And then we've got the elephant. Now this is a curious one. I found this one in a flea market again, and I didn't recognize it. I'm like, they made that character? Now, if you've seen the movie, you know this is kind of the racist elephant that doesn't want to serve Nick Wilde and his fox and elephant disguise. It's a dark character to make, but he's a bad guy. I mean, he's another another crook for the cops to arrest. So he was a solid choice. And the sculpt is really nice. He's got a little hole in his trunk here so that you could put the jumbo pop that he came with. I don't have the jumbo pop, but if you buy it new, he'll have that accessory. It's a solid figure. It's really nice. But let's talk about scale, because this guy is absolutely massive. I thought he was from some sort of 6-inch scale Zootopia line that I had never heard of, but this was part of the basic figure line and even came packaged with a Nick Wilde. So what they were trying to do here is make the characters in scale with each other as they actually were in the movie. Now that right there is an idea for an amazing line of figures. I would have loved all of Zootopia in scale with each other. I think one of the coolest aspects of the movie is that all the animals are different sizes and live in harmony. So you've got the little mouse people and you've got the tall giraffe guy. So this elephant actually scales with Judy as a bunny. This is as it would look in the movie. Because if you remember, the ice cream shop was for elephants. The counter was really high, the seats were all high, and Nick and Judy were kind of really little in the ice cream shop. So it's a cool figure and a great sign of what could have been, because I have to point out that Lionheart here is not in scale with Judy. Lionheart is huge. He's a massive lion. He's a towering and imposing figure, fit for the mayor and leader of Zootopia. So I would have liked it a lot more if instead of including Lionheart in the main line, make him a deluxe figure with this guy. You could have had him and Lionheart as kind of big deluxe guys, kind of bad guys for Nick and Judy to fight. And then you could have kept the basic figure line to just Nick, Judy, and a couple of bad guys. That way you don't have Lionheart clogging up the pegs. Again, it's a good sculpt, it's a nice figure, but I don't think it does the character justice, and I don't think he was a good pick for the first wave of figures. Same goes for Clawhauser. He's a chunky dude. He's pretty big, and it would have been cool to have a properly scaled one. I mean, Judy is taller than Clawhauser, and I don't remember that in the movie. I remember Judy having to, like, crawl up on his desk. So, I understand that they wanted the characters to interact with each other, and with playsets and vehicles. I'll talk about that. So, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? So, either you're going to make all of Zootopia as 3 3/4-inch figures, one solid line, or you're going to do them to scale. This is one of 2 figures that were done as 2-scale deluxe figures. They did him, and he's about, I would say, 6.5 inches. And then they also did Gazelle. They actually made a Gazelle figure that is 12 inches tall. She towers over the rest of them, but she is intended to be used with the TOMY figures, because in the movie, Gazelle is that tall. She's huge. You can see it at the end of the movie when they're at the concert, and then when she's protesting with the other animals, you can see how much taller she is. So they were really excited to get playsets and vehicles for this line, which I think is why they decided to make these characters this size. They wanted Clawhauser. Well, I guess they didn't, because Clawhauser doesn't fit in the cop car. Like, what were they thinking? So this is Judy's cop car, which I'm just going to say is a cool vehicle. This is a cool toy. Judy fits right here in the driver's seat. Nick, I don't have Nick, but if I did, goes next to her, and they drive. It has flashing lights. As it drives, the sirens go off, and then the back of the truck even opens up and becomes a jail for your bad guys. So this is a fun toy, and I bet a lot of kids that saw the movie would have loved this. Unfortunately, this was the last item released in the Zootopia toy line, and by the time this had come out, most stores had given up on the line. And that sucks when cool toys are released at the end of the line. So when Zootopia came out, the playsets and vehicles were not good. There's a jungle playset that's supposed to be the panther, or was he a jaguar? The jaguar's house. That's okay. And then they also wasted the vehicle spot on... Oh, there goes Judy. They wasted the vehicle spot on Nick Wilde's Corvette, which is not even in the movie. It's from an audio script. I feel terrible for the toy designers that were given the film material to make the toys, because toy lines take a couple years to make. So they were probably given Nick's car, and they made that as the deluxe vehicle. This should have been the vehicle that came out with the movie. You can't release a line of cops and robbers action figures without a cop car. It's essential. This would be like the first thing you buy for your collection. I mean, it's really cool. It's nicely detailed. It's even got the big Z on the side. I'm really fond of this design. I think it's a really nice modern cop car. It's really cool. It looks like a Playmobil car. Even if I didn't collect Zootopia, I would still get this. But unfortunately, it was released at the tail end of the toy line. If I had to guess, maybe it's because Judy gets it at the end of the movie. The end of the film, she gets the keys to this car. So maybe Disney was like, we don't want to spoil that Judy gets a cop car at the end of the movie. But like, come on. It's a movie about cops. Of course they're going to have a cop car. And it doesn't matter if it's at the end of the movie. When you're playing Zootopia as a kid, you want a police vehicle. Also released at the tail end of the line was the Zootopia police station playset, which is really expensive now. I'm looking for it, so fingers crossed I find one soon. It's another cool playset that features like a working jail cell, and I think it makes lights and sounds. Really neat, but unfortunately most Target stores, and I think Target had the exclusivity on this line, did not get the police station playset. So you got this entire line of cops and robbers that came out with no cop car, no police station, and Nick and Judy sold out in most stores. So the majority of the retail space was Lionheart, Clawhauser, and then the Jungle playset. Oh, and I didn't mention, they made Mr. Otter's Capture as a playset. So you get the wolf, the wolf's van, and Mr. Otter, and that's kind of a deluxe vehicle, the same SKU as this one. So they made the blue van and Nick's car, and then this one came out later. Only problem with the Mr. Otter Capture set is it's seen in the movie for like 2 seconds. But hey, if you buy that set, you do get the wolf, so at least you get another bad guy. I think, personally, that they shouldn't have made the van. I think it's a boring, generic van. Like, why do kids want that? Without a cop car to chase it, why do you need just the bad guy's car? Like, what are you going to do with that? They should have just released the wolf with Mr. Otter as a figure in the basic line, because he's another bad guy, and this toy desperately needed bad guys. I mean, at the end of the day, all Judy could capture in this toy line is a corrupt politician and racist ice cream shop owner. So that's what you get for bad guys. Maybe Tommy Chong exposes himself in public, and he gets to go to jail for that. So let's put him in the jail cell here. So Zootopia, it had some really cool toys. I'm so happy with what I found, but unfortunately it failed at retail. But that's okay, because now, as collectors, we get to complete this line. There's only a finite amount of Zootopia figures out there, and I think I'm gonna complete this line pretty easily, because I see them at flea markets a lot. It's kind of in what I call the sweet spot, where it's not new, it's an old toy line, so you're gonna find it secondhand, but it's not vintage, it's not retro yet. Give it another 4 years. Once Zootopia turns 10, then the kids that grew up with it are going to want to rebuy all this stuff, and the value is going to go up and up. The rarest piece in the line is this cop car. It's so difficult to find. Like, you don't even see it listed on eBay often. I found this at a flea market and couldn't believe it. I wasn't even sure that it was the Zootopia cop car. I'm like, maybe I could use that with my Judy. That looks like it'll get the job done. So I pick it up, and I see the Z on the side, and I'm like, this is it. This is Judy's car. So that was a great find. So I love finding the toughest piece first, because now I can just reap the spoils and find all the little guys. So I'm going to build my own Zootopia Critter Town, and I'll show you that when it's near a complete state. It's looking pretty good right now, but I need that police station. I gotta find that police station playset. And I know I will. I'm always on the hunt. So, just thought I'd talk a little Zootopia here. I'll probably make more videos on this toy line as I put it together. Wouldn't it be fun to do like a full retrospective and review when I have the whole line? You know, it'll happen. You never know. But hey, you know, that's collecting. Once you complete one line, you gotta find another. So, I'm on the hunt, and I'm looking for these fun Zootopia figures. And I'm buying them used for pennies on the dollar, which is fun. It's called a hustle, sweetheart.